Welcome to the Constitution. This study guide is slightly different in that this is actually an outline of some of the key information from each section and article of the Constitution. I'm not going to discuss each one in detail. My suggestion is that you pause the video and review the information on each slide and then go to the next one and pause it and so on, because I don't intend on spending a large amount of time on any individual slide. As you know, the Constitution begins with the Preamble, which tells us the 6 goals of the Constitution, and it describes the purpose and philosophy of our government. Article 1 is the largest part of the Constitution. It discusses Congress, the lawmaking branch, and it gives the most detailed information when it comes to qualifications, requirements, duties, and powers that are given to and not given to this branch of government. Remember that our Congress is divided into 2 houses. That means it's bicameral, and that comes from the Great Compromise. Our election of our officers and members is set by the different states. So every state does not elect its senators and representatives at the same time. The number of representatives we have in Congress is based on population. We currently have 435 representatives, and that is divided amongst all 50 states. It's approximately 1 in every 650,000 people per each state. If a vacancy occurs, it is filled by a special election. One of the things that's very important to remember is that only the House of Representatives has the power of impeachment. Impeachment is removing a public official for wrongdoing. The Senate acts as the court in any impeachment trials. In the original election for senators, there were 3 different categories or classifications. 1/3 of the senators were elected for 2 years, 1/3 were elected for 4, and 1/3 were elected for 6. That happened only that one time. After that, all senators were in office for 6 years. This allows us to have 1/3 of the senators up for re-election every 2 years. Remember that the vice president is the president of the Senate. And when he's not able to be there, that's when they have the president pro tempore, or the temporary president who is chosen by the Senate, take over. This house is based on equality. There are 2 from each state. Originally, they were not selected by the people, but that changed with Amendment number 17, which required that all senators be elected by the people. The Senate is the court in any impeachment trials. The Chief Justice of the Supreme Court presides at the impeachment of the President. It takes a 2/3 majority of the Senate to convict someone, and the penalties are removal from office, definitely. According to the Constitution, each branch makes its own rules, takes a 2/3 vote to expel or kick out a member from Congress, and they're not allowed to adjourn for more than 5 days without the consent of the other house. That way you don't have the House in session and the Senate's not, or the Senate in session and the House is not. Remember that the primary job of the legislative branch is to make laws. It takes a majority vote in both houses and the signature of the president to change a bill into a law. Let's say that the president chooses to use his checks and balances and he vetoes a bill. Well, with a 2/3 vote in each house, the Congress can't override that veto. However, if the president exercises a pocket veto, that means he just leaves the bill sitting on his desk for 10 days and does nothing, then it automatically dies and it cannot be overridden. Now, there's an exception to the pocket veto, and that has to do with Congress going on recess. In Article 1, the powers that Congress is given are specifically enumerated or listed. It's not open to a lot of interpretation. It is specifically stated, you may do this, you may not do that. Section 8 says the powers, the things Congress can do. Taxing, borrowing money, regulating commerce, handling laws about naturalization of citizens or bankruptcies. They also are the people who set our money weights and measures. They determine what money we'll use, what value we'll use for weights like pounds versus kilos, and they'll also determine our measurements. We use inches and feet, where most of the rest of the world uses metrics. Congress can punish counterfeiters. They are in charge of post offices, copyrights and patents for inventors so that they can have a period of time where they receive the sole profit from their inventions before it's opened up to the rest of the world to add their versions. And it's up to the Congress to set up the lower courts. One of the strongest powers Congress has is the power to declare war. Many people think that it's the president that has that power, but in reality that power belongs to Congress. And of course, they're responsible for raising and supporting our military forces. They also in charge of using and creating the National Guard to put down rebellions or invading armies. And one very controversial part is the Elastic Clause. It's a clause that says that Congress has the power to make laws that are necessary and proper for the operation of our nation. It's called the Elastic Clause because it allows Congress to stretch or expand their powers. Now, there's also specific prohibitions on Congress, things that it cannot do. Congress cannot suspend a writ of habeas corpus. Jailers that bring prisoners to jail have to have a reason to keep that prisoner in jail. They can't just keep them there to see if there's a reason. They have to have a reason before they bring them in. They can not pass a bill of attainder. Instead of the law applying to everyone, if I pass a law that specifically applied only to one single person, ex post facto, Congress can't pass laws that make something you've already done illegal and then punish you for it. Congress also has to treat all states the same. They cannot treat one state better than the others. They cannot spend money unless there's been a law passed authorizing that. And there's some very specific prohibitions on the states, things the states cannot do. They cannot take over some of the powers given to the federal government. They cannot make treaties. They cannot allow private citizens to make war on other countries. They cannot issue money, disregard federal laws, and states require the consent of Congress to lay import and export taxes, which are what duties are, and to engage in war, unless they are specifically invaded, in which case they can defend themselves. I hope this helps you with your study of the Constitution. Please go on to Part 2 to hear about Articles 2 through 7 and the amendments.